Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at batch supplier payments within the professional level of Sage 50 accounts. My name's Laura and I'm a learning facilitator here at Sage, and I'm going to be hosting the webinar today. And I've also got Michael on hand just to answer any questions in the background for you as well. We've got around half an hour booked in today, and just depending on how many questions we get, you may get a bit of time back at the end. So before we get started, just some housekeeping rules. So your mic will be muted automatically, but you'll see that there's a little question icon on the toolbar where you can submit any questions you may have for Michael or myself. So just make sure you get them popped into there, just keep them busy. And as this is a quick learn session, it is more demonstration based, but I will be including the slides in the handout section, as there are some links at the end which you might find useful. So if you do want to download those, make sure you just do that during the session, but there's also going to be a printer friendly version as well, just if you'd like to make some notes. So today I'll be giving you an introduction at how to process batch supplier payments within your Sage 50 account software. Following that, I'll go through a demonstration within the programme, just so you can see how it works. And then I'll also provide some useful links to guides on our help centre as well. So if you would like to further your knowledge around processing those might be quite handy for you too. And then we should have some time at the end just to answer any of those questions that you may have. So batch supplier payments are only available in the professional level of the software, as I mentioned before there. You can use batch supplier payments just to save you time when paying supplier invoices. It groups all the outstanding transactions together, just allowing you to pay or allocate these items all at once. You can access batch supplier payments from the bank accounts module. And just like standard supplier payments, you can create e-payments to send to your bank, print or email remittances to suppliers, and also link your salary and supplier payments through Modular. So what I'll do now is I'll pop into my system and we can have a look at just how to use those batch supplier payments. So as I've mentioned a couple of times, it is just available on the professional level of the software. So if you can't see it in your program, you may be on Essentials or standard version of the software, but it might still be something worth looking at. Just if you do spend a lot of time making supplier payments on there, it can save you time, and I'm going to show you how we can do that. So a standard supplier payment you can access from both the bank accounts module and the suppliers module. So we'll have a quick look at that first of all, so we can see what the difference looks like. So if we go into bank accounts, just on the left hand side, and then along the top here you have your supplier payment option, and you've also got your batch supplier payment. We have a look in the suppliers module, so just on the left hand side, if we go to suppliers, along the top we can see we just have the supplier payment option available in here. In the supplier payment option, it just looks exactly the same, does exactly the same in suppliers or bank accounts. It's just you can access it from both of them, but the batch supplier, that's only available in your bank accounts module there. So what we'll do is we'll have a look just to see what the difference is. We'll run through a quick standard one first of all, just so we can have a look and see what the difference looks like. So I've got my 1200 bank account highlighted here, and I'm just going to click on supplier payment at the top. If you can't see supplier payment or batch supplier payment at the top, it may be due to the resolution of your screen. So I'll just quickly show you. If I minimize my screen there, you can see it bunches some of these together, and underneath payment, you'll have supplier payment and batch supplier payment in there, just depending on your screen size, but I'll maximize mine just so then you can see it at your end there. So if I click on supplier payment, and it's going to open up this window for me, it's already got my bank account details shown in here, and this is just the standard one I'm showing at the moment, just so we've got an idea of the difference there. In the supplier details, we'll have to choose which supplier we're wanting to pay. So I'm going to use the drop-down box, and I'm going to select my supplier just from here, just by clicking on my supplier, clicking on OK, and that'll bring up for me any invoices or anything that I want to pay just in this window. So I can only pay off one supplier at a time, having to go out of the window each time and go back in to pay another one. So if I click in the payment window, and then just at the top here, I'm going to click on Pay in Full. And you can just click Pay F3 on your keyboard, which will just do the same thing, but I'm going to click Pay in Full there. And then I'm going to click Save down in the bottom right-hand corner. And that's my supplier paid. And you can see I can only pay one supplier. So if I want to pay another supplier, I've then got to go back up to the top, select under the account, choose my next supplier, and go through it that way. So you can only pay one supplier at a time. So it would be handy to be able to see any outstanding suppliers all in one place and just be able to pay them without opening a new window each time. And with batch supplier payments, you can do that. So I'm going to close out of this window. I'm just going to say, no, I don't want to save those changes to this one. And this time we're going to click on batch supplier payment at the top there. That'll open up a window, and you can see in here straight away, I haven't had to select anything. It has straight away just populated all of my outstanding supplier invoices, credits, and payments on account in here. So it's not just one supplier, but it's for all of my outstanding suppliers on here. So there's no need for separate windows this time. What I will say with this one, if I just close this window a moment, if I don't have a bank account selected, so if I'm just going to clear my bank account, if I try and click on batch supplier payment at the top, it'll bring up a message just saying no bank account's been selected. So I do need to select my bank account before clicking on batch supplier payment at the top there. If you've got the wrong bank account, you can just use the drop-down box and you can just change it from there if you need to though. But I'm going to leave it as my current account. You can see in here supplier details. So it's got the supplier highlighted, which is my top one in here. So it's got that one highlighted, my Concept stationery supplies. If I click into one of the other windows, it will change it. So we've got Kev's Cakes there, and then Lewis Loaves down there. So it does change it depending on which payment line you're actually on there. You can also change the date as well if you need to, just by over typing it. So you can type into that window. And you can also click on the little calendar here as well. That will also just bring up the date. You can manually then select the date that you want to choose for that. Along the top here, so we've still got the pay in full function, which is just what we had. You saw me just there in the standard supplier. So if I click into the payment window, you can either key the amount in manually if you want to on your keyboard. There is a little keyboard icon that you can click on there, and you can manually click on the figures there as well. Or if you're just paying it in full, you can just click pay in full at the top, or F3 on your keyboard. Just next to it, we've also got pay all. So if I click pay all, it does exactly what it says on the tin for that one. It will then populate all of those figures in there as if I'm going to be paying everybody in full all at once. But I don't want to do that just yet. So there is a clear form button which we can click on here. So if I click that, that will clear everything on there. So you can see now we're just back to having nothing showing on there. You can also allocate payments to a department. So if I click on department at the top there, it's just brought up on another window. So I'm just going to pull that over. It'll default it to 0 if you're not using departments. I'm not using departments, so it's just defaulted mine to there. But you can see there is a drop-down box which you can then select your department if you have one that you're using. I'm just going to cancel out of that because I'm not using that. You can also allocate it to a charity as well by clicking on Fund. I'll just pull that one over because that's opened over here as well. And just the same as departments, there is a drop-down window or drop-down box there. You can click on that and you can select your fund from there. Again, I'm not using charity, so I don't actually have any set up in here. That's where you would just select that from. So I'll close out of those on there as well. Like I said, you can amend the date if you need to as well. You can also add a reference and an extra reference in here too. So if you want to pop those in, that's where you would pop them into, just on that window there. There is also a filter option as well. So at the moment, I'm showing all of my transactions. All my supplier transactions are outstanding in here. I can put in, I can change it to due if I want to. So I do have one, I'll just point it out here, got one here, which is not due until the middle of next month in October. So if I click on due, it just removes that one for me. So it's only showing me the ones that are due to be paid at the moment, or a little bit outstanding, should we say, for those ones. You can also pop a date range on as well. So if I go and click on date range, it's just defaulted it to today. But if I put in the 1st of September, it's just bringing up these ones for me now. So I've just got that payment on account and that invoice that's showing on there. I'm going to change that back to all, so I've got them all showing in there. But you can see I do have several transactions. I've got a few for each supplier on here, and I'm just going to pay them all in full. There is, just to cover this list invoice credit by item line as well. So you'll notice there is a little tick box here as well. So when this is ticked, it'll separate invoices out for you. So if you've got grouped transactions, it'll list them separately for you. So if I tick that, you'll see all of a sudden I now have two. I'll just untick it just so you can see the difference. Just got the one there for this invoice for £1,182.80. If I tick that box, we'll see that actually that one invoice is a grouped transaction made up of these two amounts here. So remember, grouped transactions are transactions entered next to each other in the same batch window with the same date on them. So we've got the same date here, the same account, and the same reference. So you'll see we've got two down here, and I untick that. They're still separate because the date is different. So it doesn't meet that criteria for those grouped transactions. So we can pay that off. I'm going to pay these all off in full. And what that will do is it'll group the payments by supplier for you. So it'll only show one transaction per supplier on the audit trail, just making it easier to reconcile them there. So if I show you what that looks like now, so I'm going to click pay all of them. Just want them all paid in full. I'm going to click save to that for me. And then just to show you, so if I go back to batch supplier payment, I should have nothing in there now because there's nothing outstanding. So that's all been paid off. So I'll close that window. We'll just have a look in transactions. So if we click on transactions just on the left-hand side there, and then I'm just going to click on the number at the top here, just so it reorders them for me. So you can see now it starts from 1. And if I drag this all the way down to the bottom, we'll see those transactions that we've just made there. So we can see these 3 transactions here. So we've got 1 per supplier. And if you remember, we did have 2 and 3 transactions per supplier before, but it has just posted 1 transaction for the full amount for each one of them for within there. So the 3 payments or the 3 payment transactions are shown in there rather than having a payment for each individual invoice line. It just makes it easier when you come to reconcile them. So on your bank statement, you probably won't have made sort of single payments for each invoice line on there. You would have just sort of made a payment to that supplier for the outstanding amount. So it groups them for you just to make it easier to reconcile them. You can have a look and see what's been split up there for it. So if you went into your suppliers, and if we just pick one of the suppliers that we've just paid off there, so I want this one, you can either double click on it, or just click on activity at the top there. And this is the transaction that we've just made here. So we've got the purchase payment with today's date on there. We've got the full amount for this particular supplier. But then down here we can see which invoices. We've got this purchase payment here, paid off these 4 invoices. So you can see the invoice numbers just on the end there. So there's always a way of going back to see which invoices actually made up that amount on there, if you did need to go back and have a look at them. That's just in the customer activity there. Close out of that. So if you're using e-payments as well, just like a standard supplier payment, it'll feed the relevant information through, just like normal. So if you've ticked the box, create an e-payment supplier configured by BACS or SEPA, I'll just show you where that is as well. So if we go back into bank accounts on the left-hand side, and batch supplier payment, obviously it'll be empty because we've made the payments there. But just this little tick box here, so as long as that's ticked on there, it'll just feed that relevant information through for you if you are using e-banking there. We do have a full webinar on e-payments and e-banking on there on our help centre though. So if you do want a bit more information on that, I'd recommend having a look at that, as that is a full webinar in itself as well. Just close that window. For remittances, if you normally send out supplier remittances, just like when you have created a standard supplier payment, once you create the batch supplier payment, a remittance will be created as well. So if you want to send those to your supplier, you can do that just by going into your bank accounts module, just on the left-hand side there. And then along the top, you'll have that option for remittances. So if we click on that, you can see there we've got just the transactions, just that we've posted there. You can highlight those and you can either email them, you can print them just to send those to your supplier as well. And just like for your standard supplier payments too, you can also use it to process payments through salary and supplier payments through modular as well. So if you're already using that for your standard ones, you can use that alongside your batch supplier payments too. So as you can see, batch supplier payments allow you to have all of your outstanding supplier transactions in one window, just making it easier to pay what's outstanding. It also gets the benefits on there. You can still use your e-payments, salary and supplier payments, and printing or emailing those remittances too. But it does make it a lot quicker because they're all sort of in that one window rather than having to go and search for each supplier individually. So as I mentioned in the demonstration, you can also use batch supplier payments with salary and supplier payments, which provides a secure way to pay your suppliers. You can also create remittances for your batch supplier payments as well. So just like you would if you were using standard supplier payments. And you can also create payment runs with e-payments using batch supplier payments too. So I've added links on here just to our help centre guides for all of these as well. So if you would like more information on them, they're really good guides just to have a look at there. We do have our help centre as well, where you can search for help if you do need it, just by visiting sage.co.uk/help. This is where all those handy guides I've just mentioned live as well, just along with much more, so including our Sage University, which is free to create an account on and complete courses on which you receive certificates for as well. I'll just keep this open just for a little bit longer, just while we're finishing answering those last few questions there. Don't forget, you'll also get a recording of today's webinar by email as well in about an hour's time. So if you do want to recap anything or share it with any colleagues, you can do that as well. Just while we're waiting just for Michael to finish answering those last couple of questions there, just to let you know that back by popular demand is our one-to-one bespoke training sessions. So these are block hour sessions which are over Teams with one of our trainers who can provide training and answer your questions around how you want to use the software. So it might be that you just want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it, or you might have new starters who you want to get up to speed on using the software. But if it does sound like something that would be fine or you would find useful on there, if you pop an email along to us, just at the email address shown on the slide there, we can get back in touch with you just with further information on there. But it's just that email address, which is lsenablement1@365sage.net, and then we can get back in touch with you. But you can also access our webinars at sage.co.uk/webinars. All the past recordings are on there as well, so they're all free to view, along with signing up for our upcoming webinars. The link's just on the slide, but I'll pop back into my screen just to show you there. Just go back into, I'll just open up a Google page on there. Just put in there sage.co.uk/webinars, and it just takes you to this page on here. So along the top you can see you can also access our Sage University, which I mentioned before there, but along here we've got access to all the other products on here as well. We've got the payroll, we've got Sage Business Cloud, HR advice, we've got all of our recordings just here too for 50 accounts. The live ones, if we just click on here, it'll take us straight through to our Help Centre page. I scroll down on here, you'll see that we're currently running a badge series of webinars for the report designer covering 7 topics. So these run throughout September and October, and it's just to introduce you to the workings and functionality of the report design for Sage 50 accounts there. But a bit further down, if we scroll down, you'll see all of our other upcoming webinars as well. So we've got batch supplier payments, which we're running through there now, allocating and unallocating transactions, one's on Copilot. So there's quite a lot there to be having a look at and get yourself registered on. That does bring us to the end of today's session, creating batch supplier payments there. So you'll get a survey when leaving today's session as well. So I'd love it if you could leave us any feedback on there or any comments around what else you'd like to say on a webinar perhaps. But I do hope that it's been helpful for you today, and thank you for attending as well, and have a lovely rest of your day there.